you so much, Helen. So we're going to start off by getting to know you guys a little bit, and I appreciate everybody being here. I'd like to know who we're talking to, so just pop a quick poll in the chat, and hopefully this works. I'm being asked to walk and chew gum at the same time, so let's try opening this poll. Leave it open for a minute, and just give us a sense of what you do at your company. We're not going to make you the subject of any targeted campaigns after this based on your role. We've hopefully all had experience with Loop One at some point and know that we're not that type of shop. So we'll keep that open for another few seconds. Cool. As you'll find out here in a second, both Shon and myself, my co-presenter here, both fall squarely into the other category on this. So I'm going to give the kind of pre-webinar warning that we're not highly technical, but what Shon and I do best is talk up the products and help set up calls. And if you want more information, obviously we'll provide it. But as far as technical questions, we'll do our best. We'll get you answers if we don't have them right now. So cool. Let's see. Juggling WebEx widgets here. So yeah, introductions. Like I said, Shon and I both not really falling into the technical realm, although we have been in technical sales for a while. For myself, 6 years here at Loop One. I've done a little bit of everything, starting with our web help desk, moving over to our managed services team, then into an inside sales role and the director of sales, and now I handle our large accounts nationally. So we have been around since 2009. We'll go into more of the history here in a second, and worked with all kinds of large companies. So for myself, that means that I've been on site at some pretty cool and complex shops and spoken with a lot of people doing some really cool things. And to that point, we're very excited to be working with Portnox and folks like Shon. So Shon, you want to say hello to the good people?
Yeah, Jordan, can you hear me okay?
Sounds great.
Great. Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining this morning. Like Jordan said, my name is Shon Turner. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Portnox. As you'll learn more in the presentation, Portnox, we're in the cybersecurity space, access control product. Portnox has been around since 2007, 2008 timeframe, Israeli-based company. We had some VC investment back in October last year, moved the headquarters to Austin, Texas, and hired a bunch of sort of the new leadership team. I was part of that new regime, so I've been with the company for almost a year, but my sort of IT background, as Jordan said earlier, I've been in the sales side of things my entire career, so I know technology enough to be dangerous, but that's about it. I started my career like I kind of joke, every good boy and girl in Austin, Texas, pretty much starts their sales career at Dell. So I started at Dell back in the day. I did spend some time at SolarWinds, believe it or not, and worked with the Loop One team. I was spent 5 or 6 years at SolarWinds. But since then, I've been mostly at sort of early stage startup, pre-IPO companies. Most recently, I was with a company called Couchbase, and then kind of came over to Portnox to run their entire go-to-market team. So I have my responsibilities fall under the sort of SDR organization, the sales team, sales engineering. So I've got a ton of smart people on my team that can make me look smart. But yeah, that's my responsibility here. And, once again, look forward to sort of covering some ground with you guys today.
Great. Thanks, Shon. And what's cool about this webinar is that actually you've got a couple folks from the US speaking to an international audience, and Shon will actually be on the other side of the pond, which we'll touch on at the end. But so you're actually going to be able to put face-to-face experience with this webinar if you so choose. And then you can really, hold Shon to task if he didn't send you those answers that you demanded during this webinar. So, but a bit about Loop One. So, as Shon touched on, we've worked together in the past, and Loop One has grown strictly as a SolarWinds services partner for a long time, since 2009. 5,000 SolarWinds engagements all over the world, optimizing, configuring, and training to SolarWinds. And hopefully you've all worked with Loop One in some capacity, or Kenson in the past. And Loop One and Kenson joined forces about 4 years ago. And my counterpart on the sales side in EMEA is Glenn Kershaw, running out of the Cirencester office there. So a lot of SolarWinds experience. There's a gentleman in that office that just celebrated his 25th year. So uh, pretty cool experience, but mainly it's when we hit Sunburst a couple years ago and then COVID, kind of a good 1-2 punch for SolarWinds, not to mention services partners like Loop One. It made us think, okay, well, it can be really fun going down this river on one log, but when we hit those rapids, man, it sure would be nice to have a couple tied together. So enter some unique partnerships. And I say unique because our CEO, Bill Fitzpatrick, has been very selective over the years in who he partnered with. Um, he's had probably hundreds, if not thousands, of vendors approach him asking, we'd love for you to resell our software and effectively get access to your database, start calling into your longtime clients you've done all this great work for. Um, didn't really start doing any of that serious exploration until Sunburst. And again, still remaining selective. He wanted to find things that were complementary to SolarWinds. He didn't want us sales folks calling into our clients, selling them things that they could already get out of their SolarWinds tooling, effectively uh, double charging them for technology they don't need, or overlapping technology, no matter how good it is. And the fact that we've strictly remained a SolarWinds services shop for most part over these last 13 years, he didn't want to throw our engineers into a space where suddenly they're having to deliver engagements. They're highly intricate and highly involved uh, without proper training. But not only that, it's we have specialized and let's find some complementary tools that are easy to set up. So Portnox fits that perfectly. NAC as a service is something we're really excited about because we've got a lot of clients that need this, and whether they know about Portnox yet or not, we're doing our best to introduce them to it strategically. So um, that's kind of how we got into it with Portnox. All of these tools that you see on the right side of your screen are going to be either a zero trust or a security and compliance complementary tool, with the exception of graphical networks. And Portnox is one certainly we're very, very excited about. And I guess, as you can see, if you are a SolarWinds client or user and you haven't leveraged us for services, please give us a call. You can see the experience on the screen here. One of the things as a sales guy I always gripe to Helen about is that you've got the average experience and all the certifications that our engineers have, but you don't put anything about the certifications that the salespeople have. So take a lot of pride in training our sales staff to um, run an intelligent sales cycle, know the products. Our sales team has more tenure than probably 90% of the SolarWinds sales staff, and um, it's something we take pride in. The experience with Portnox so far has been a great one, so we don't have to leverage our sales chops against theirs. It's been a great partnership so far. If anyone's dealt with SolarWinds in the US, at times that's been a little bit of a struggle, but they are improving under the new leadership and all of that. So I'm digressing into things that we don't need to be talking about today. But if you have questions about any of this, know that the Loop One team here in the US, Loop One team in the UK, not to mention our offices in Cork, Ireland, Germany, and Sri Lanka are here to help. We've got a true follow the sun model, and look forward to working with our clients on new stuff. We're excited about this. So on to a second poll, and then I'll turn it over to Shon. Let me see if I can be 2 for 2 in running polls for the very first time. Let's try this.
Batting 1,000 almost, Jordan.
Oh gosh, no, you just jinxed it.
You're doing a great job, Jordan.
Fantastic. All right, so this one, pretty cut and dry. What are you using today? And obviously, when you get into product comparison with sales guys, we like to ask that question, but then they say, well, what does your product do that the other products don't? And then we have to say, well, we're not an expert on the other products, but what we'll do is present the best foot forward for our product, and then you go through your rationalization exercise, and we'll help you along the way. But that's one of the things that makes Portnox unique is I don't think that there's another NAC as a service product on this list, is there, Shon?
There's not. We're
Yeah.
actually the only one in the market, Jordan, which is it's a nice spot to be in.
Yeah, I think I'm stealing some of your thunder, but we'll
That's
close
all right.
this poll out here in a second. And go. Cool. So thank you for everybody that contributed to those polls, and let's move on with the show. No more polls, no more questions, no more quizzes. The rest of this is Shon and myself, hopefully telling you about Portnox and getting you a little bit interested. So Shon, over to you, sir.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it. And thanks again for everyone for joining this morning, this afternoon, wherever you guys are globally. I sit in Austin, Texas, so it is 9:12 a.m. over here. I've had a couple of cups of coffee. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear as I'm battling a little bit of a cold, but we persevere. First of all, thanks, Jordan, for the introduction and partnering with us on this webinar today. We're super excited to be aligned with Loop One. I do know Bill Fitzpatrick from years and years ago. So Bill and I have known him for a long time. We actually do some multi-sport triathlons together, but more importantly, Bill's a unbelievably great CEO. And to Jordan's point, like he's been very selective on sort of who he's selected to sort of go to market with on the vendor side. So we're super thrilled to be part of that ecosystem. As you saw on the previous slide, there's only a handful. So first of all, thanks again for joining. I do appreciate your time today. We have a lot to cover. We got a handful of slides to go through. It's probably somewhere put 15 to 20 minutes, depending on sort of my cadence and my delivery. We will have question time for Q&A at the end. Go back to what Jordan said earlier. I'm Chief Revenue Officer. I'm everything responsible that touches the customer, but I have people on my team that are responsible for being the super smart folks that engage with most of the folks on this call from a technical perspective. So I'll do my best to answer the technical questions, but there will be likely note taking at the end, and I will, along with Jordan, follow up with our teams to make sure that we're getting answers back to you. And then, like Jordan sort of teased earlier, we are doing an event in the UK in October. More to come on that, where I'll actually be across the pond with my sales engineering team, director of channel, and some of the Loop One team members as well. So stay tuned for that. So let's kick this off. I'll try to keep it as lively as possible, keep this cadence as good as I can. I'm from Texas. I talk really, really slow. That's just sort of my delivery. So hopefully you can hear fast enough to keep up with me, which I know you gents can as across the pond. So first of all, so let's get started. So as you can see on the slide here, as many of you probably experienced in some form or fashion, it's a bit of a perfect storm for IT security teams. You have BYOD, remote work, cloud adoption, network innovation, limited IT staffing, which I'm sure you're all feeling the pinch there, extremely sophisticated cyber attacks, etc. Leave our work cut out for us when it comes to solidifying our corporate security postures. The need for employees to have access to everything from everywhere has changed the security dynamic. Next slide, please. The pace at which cyber attacks, particularly ransomware, are occurring has only accelerated, being exacerbated by emerging trends like ransomware as a service, which I hadn't even heard of until here recently as a service. So, and with more cyber attacks, companies are facing greater and greater data and ultimately financial loss. It truly is an age of quote unquote cybersecurity crisis. You can see 10.5 trillion globally in 2025 as projection. Recovering from ransomware costs an average of $1.85 million. This is per Cloud Wars. You can read the screen here, but this is a very, very costly sort of situation we ourselves in from a cybersecurity attack. Next slide, please.
Everything is a service these days. I'm waiting for webinars as a service.
Yeah, that would eliminate our jobs, maybe. I don't know. So, very good point there. To make matters worse, as they can only get worse at this point, IT security vendor management marketplace is incredibly saturated. This is a result, which is great. This is a result of innovation in direct response to increasingly sophisticated and often niche cyber attacks. And while this vendor saturation isn't deliberate, it does create a quote unquote fear of missing out among IT security administrators, excuse me, forcing them to ask themselves, am I at risk if I don't have a tool for this or for that? Next slide. Stay hydrated as well. But how can anyone with their back against the wall make sense of the options presented to them in this quote unquote cyberscape? The reality is we need to get back to the basics. And you'll hear me say that a couple of times in this presentation. With thousands of vendors, we've listed a few in the poll earlier that you guys are likely using. With thousands of vendors tackling highly focused and siloed security use cases, how can organizations prioritize what to invest in? The truth is, IT and IT teams need to look in the mirror and ask what's essential to maintain digital business continuity safely and securely. Next slide. Now we've asked the question, where do we actually go from here? Good job, Jordan. You advanced without me telling you. You're following it, man. I get it. So once again, we're back to this, as I said before, get back to this theme of back to the basics, right? It sounds great. And actually, in going back to the basics, you know, sort of like any coach will tell you, like it's all about fundamentals and basics. And candidly, that's what we're getting back to here. So don't let the cyberscape fool you. When it's all netted out, cybersecurity can be fundamentally bucketed into three areas. We got network security, which we're going to talk a ton about. We got endpoint security, and we have application security. It does sound pretty straightforward, at least for me, and I'm a layman. It's probably super straightforward for the technical folks on the call, but it does require focus, honesty, and discipline. I'll expand on this in just a moment. Next slide. While the development of singularly focused, narrow use case security solutions has become a cottage industry, some fundamental technologies have never gone away. At the end of the day, companies should seek to secure their networks, the devices in use across those networks, and the business applications in use across those devices. This means deploying firewalls, network access controller, quote unquote NAC, and antivirus. This is an overarching security trilogy that's straightforward, but it is highly effective. Good job, Jordan. So let's dig in a bit on each of these security, as I call trilogy or quote unquote, I prefer trifecta, but you know, trilogy, trifecta, interchangeable in this presentation. First of all, we're going to touch on firewalls. Firewalls have been the first line of defense in network security for decades, right? You guys have been deploying and implementing, you know, firewalls, either appliances or virtual firewalls for years and years and years, right? Been a staple. They establish a barrier between secured and controlled internal networks that can be trusted and untrusted outside networks such as internet. So basically, it keeps the good stuff in. Sorry, my dog is barking. Sorry about that. And keeps the bad guys out, right? First line of defense. Firewalls evolved. Sorry about that. Firewalls have evolved beyond simple packet filtering and stateful inspection. These days, most companies are deploying what they call next-gen firewalls to block modern threats such as advanced malware and application layer attacks. Ultimately, firewalls prevent external internet from becoming internal or letting the bad stuff inside your firewall and your network. Next slide, please.
Your microphone's got a good dog firewall on it because we hardly hear it. So
I'm sorry.
The new normal. Don't worry about it.
It's the BYD. It's part of the whole NAC. That was actually intentional, Jordan. I wanted to working from home. I'm using Portnox Clear to authenticate in my network, so I don't have malware. So that was set up perfectly. My dog kind of jumped in at the Amazon person. Perfect timing there. I digress. So now, next we have network access control, or NAC, right? That's what I am personally super passionate about, and what we're here mostly to cover. But it's really your overarching trifecta. But NAC piece is sort of where Portnox fits in. NAC is a technology that enables organizations to enact their own unique policies for how and when endpoints like desktops, laptops, printers, IoT, etc., can connect to their corporate networks. NAC solutions are designed to allow IT to gain visibility to each device trying to access its network, and specifically the type of device and access layer being used, such as Wi-Fi, wireless, wired ports, VPN, etc. today, NAC, Network Access Control NAC, also covers a number of additional use cases on top of this. It's obviously expanding what NAC is actually sort of covering. One example is endpoint security posture assessment and remediation. Say that 10 times fast. What that does, it pinpoints any associated risks to devices and automatically brings them back to a healthy compliant state. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation as well. Furthermore, NAC protects companies from insider threats such as disgruntled employees, which I know none of us have those, malicious guests, which that doesn't happen either. But we do have some contractors that come in from time to time, and they may bring a device in that, maybe they did their fantasy football draft and they downloaded something they shouldn't have. They plug in our network as a contractor, so on and so forth. So NAC can protect from sort of all those things and continue. Next
The
slide.
thermostats these days, right?
What's that, Jordan?
Even the thermostats are connected to the Wi-Fi these days.
It is. Mine doesn't work properly, but absolutely. My bills are through the roof and it's not doing a great job. But yeah, absolutely. Allegedly, I can control it from my Honeywell app, but I digress as well. So this is sort of talking about the market, right? Largely attractive market opportunity from 2021, 13.9 billion, projected out in 2027 to be 13.2 billion, right? That's what we're seeing this sort of, and that's actually, and I'm sort of going off script a little bit here. One of the things that's super attractive to me is sort of coming from sort of the space I was in before. I love working with IT professionals, but we're being in the security space and going to shows, understanding like sort of the market trends and sort of the executive, like the CIOs, CTOs, and organizations are really focusing on sort of like automation, which I know Jordan and his organization work a lot in the automation space with sort of the tools they have from SolarWinds to Runecast, and we fit into sort of that world as well in the security space as well. So anyway, so the NAC adoption is also rising quickly in the face of regulatory requirements, right? And ongoing security audit across industries. This isn't just, hey, I want to protect the bad guys from getting out in and keep the good guys in, but it's also regulatory things out there across, in the US and then obviously these in the UK, right? You have Cyber Essentials things in the UK. You have GDPR. We have all kind of things in the UK that are causing customers to put in and implement an access control layer into the security stack to be compliant for any number of different compliance reasons. More and more companies and IT security teams understand and appreciate the value of NAC and are allocating budget for this technology, right? This has gone much more from a, hey, I think we might need this, and from a need to have or nice to have to sort of a mandatory like part of your compliance stack. It's mostly part of your security sort of technology stack, so on and so forth. So this the NAC actually sits inside of what we call the identity access management space, or IAM. NAC actually, of that IAM sort of space, is actually growing faster than IAM overall. So the pace of NAC, because it is becoming more and more prevalent with the BYOD, remote workers, all that, having a NAC sort of layer in cybersecurity protection is becoming more and more prevalent and popular, and actually outpacing growth in the IAM market in general. It said, in fact, in 2022, and I see here on the screen, 2027 where we're going, but at the end of this year, so gosh, it's already September. It'll be, in the US, we'll be celebrating Thanksgiving pretty soon, and we're in football season right now. The Cowboys type football, not the football you guys focus on. Then we'll have Christmas. So basically 2022 is almost over. So by the end of this year, the projection is about 12 billion globally spent on the access control space, right? Which is an insanely big market. So in a sense, this really does speak for its critical importance and industry practitioners' acknowledgement that this is a quote unquote security essential.
Yeah. I don't know how many clients I've spoken with that they've got some sort of SD-WAN project or rollout to sites that it's, the practitioners we talk to, the admins on the ground floor, just how do we keep up? They're pulling their hair out. So we do the best we can with SolarWinds to take that off their plate, but it doesn't, relieve the pressure from the 10 other projects they got on their list. So this is just yet another reason why this is very compelling for us as a SolarWinds service provider to be able to talk to something like this, just help ease the pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. Good plug there. Thank you. So last but not least, sort of tying off the sort of trilogy theme here, is antivirus, right? So, round up the trilogy, you have antivirus software, which helps protect computers against malware and cyber criminals, right? Ideally, we all have antivirus on our machines. Antivirus software looks at data such as web pages, files, software, and applications traveling over the network to and from your devices, right? It searches for known threats and monitors the behavior of all programs. It flags suspicious behavior, and it seeks to block or remove malware as quickly as possible, right? This is something that, once again, has been around. Back in my Dell days, I sold Symantec and McAfee antivirus, and it's so I know we've come a long way since then, but it's still a staple of security, right? So such as firewall, such as access control. Antivirus protection is essential given the array of constantly emerging cyber threats. If we don't have software, if we don't have an antivirus installed, we're at risk of picking up viruses and malware that ultimately can harm the network infrastructure. You got ahead of me, Jordan, but that's okay.
I did.
That's okay. No, that's fine. That's okay. This is a live webinar, man. Stuff happens, right? So
I'll just edit it out for the recording.
And we're just sales guys. So this trilogy of security technology creates a first, second, and third line of defense. It ensures you have a 360-degree coverage across your network, your endpoints, and applications in use throughout the organization. So you can see the visual there, sort of how they all tie in: network security, endpoint security, application security. Your network security is firewall specifically working there. Antivirus is on endpoint and application. NAC is obviously sort of network and endpoint. You see the overlap with antivirus and NAC. The point is to have sort of the all three sort of pillars covered. You need all three of these sort of pieces of the trilogy or trifecta. Next slide. But wait, there's more. I know you guys are on the edge of your seat, so there is more to this story, right? So we're just getting started here. So thanks to innovation, enterprise networking and software, there are several key trends that are impacting how these essential technologies are being deployed today to keep networks, devices, and data secure. Next slide. The adoption of SaaS and cloud services has decentralized data flows, making MPLS inefficient for WAN transport. This has given a rise to SD-WAN, which Jordan mentioned earlier, SD-WAN, for implementation of software-defined branch, or SD branch, now allowing IT environments to be extended to branches outside of the headquarters that need high-quality network connectivity. Traditionally, in order for most cybersecurity products to effectively operate, they need a direct connection to headquarters and the appliance deployed on site at individual branches. As you all know, this is costly, it's time-consuming endeavor, and historically limited the use of SD-WAN and SD branch. Fortunately, software as a service, or SaaS, is eliminating the need for on-site appliances and ongoing maintenance. We're trending in the direction of the Portnox story here. So now all you need is internet connection to implement a lot of these technologies. Next slide. In 2019, going back a few years, Gartner introduced Secure Access Service Edge, or SASE, which I know we all love to use the term SASE with air quotes, right? As a new enterprise networking technology category, right? That's what Gartner does. They create new technologies. They put vendors in certain buckets, and everyone desires to get in the magic quadrant, right? That's sort of the part of it. So there's the SASE sort of technology category, which you guys are probably familiar with over the last, I guess, 3 years. In essence, SASE converges the functions of network and security solutions into a single unified cloud service, which is great. This marks as an architectural transformation within the realm of enterprise networking and security. And what that means is IT teams can now deliver holistic and flexible service to their businesses. The logical next step in the evolution of cybersecurity is for organizations to be able to leverage security solutions that are delivered as a cloud service. This eliminates the need for costly on-site appliances and an ongoing maintenance. Next slide. We do it okay on time, Jordan?
Yep. Good.
Good.
And again, just a reminder, if there's any questions, pop them in the chat. Helen will be monitoring it, and she'll ping me, and if I don't see it, then she'll just let me know. But
no questions yet, huh, Helen? Oh, okay.
It means you've done it all.
I guess. You know.
Yeah, nothing yet, Shon.
We're waiting for the punchline. All right. So we're probably halfway through. So just hang in a few more slides, and then we'll get to the Q&A. So I used to the site here, Zero Trust Network Access, or ZTNA, which is once again very buzzy word out there. As you guys, there's Zero Trust, ZTNA. You hear that all the time. I went to a conference last week, and we were talking about network access control. I'm sort of once again sort of digressing. Network access control, and people were like, "Okay, what is that? How does it fit in? How do you do this?" And then all of a sudden, we started talking about Zero Trust Network Access, and all of a sudden, light bulbs go off. Oh my gosh, you're part of Zero Trust. You're Zero Trust. Okay, got it. We're all about Zero Trust. Once again, it's a buzzword out there that vendors are sort of like slotting themselves into, because Zero Trust is a hot sort of like concept, if you will, across the IT and security landscape. So Zero Trust Network, or ZTNA, it's an IT security solution that provides secure remote access to an organization's applications, data, and services based on clearly defined access control policies. ZTNA differs significantly from virtual private networks, or VPNs, which we're all familiar with. And they grant access only to specific services and applications, where VPNs grant access to an entire network. You VPN into your network infrastructure through the old way, right? It's you have access to the entire network, you tunnel in, it is what it is, right? ZTNA only allows you to log in and access specific applications, specific services based on your user profile. As an increasing number of users accessing business resources from home or elsewhere, ZTNA solutions can help eliminate gaps in other secure remote access technologies and methods.
I know least privilege access is big for us, and knowing that I can confidently tell, an InfoSec director that, hey, when we come on site, we're only going to have access to your SolarWinds infrastructure. That's it. Like, you set up that privilege for us, and that's all that's all we want to access as a service provider. We don't want anything coming back out of your network getting us. So it's nice to know that it is a buzzword, but for a company like Loop One, it's also very important.
Absolutely. No, 100%. All right, folks, we're getting sort of to the punchline here. And the reason that hopefully we're all here, you guys probably didn't need to learn a ton about NAC and antivirus and firewall, but that's sort of the build up to, as my CO says, the punchline to the joke, but how Portnox fits in. How does Portnox fit into this sort of whole SaaS, network security, access control layer sort of world? So let's get into that a little bit here. So as we know, we've already talked about this. I've harped on this a ton. NAC is a critical component of your network security stack. Traditionally, the options available to most companies have been extremely complex to deploy and manage, right? You guys, I don't see the poll results, but I know of the, 7 or 8 vendors I think Jordan put up there before, all of them are an on-premise, either download a license to a VM or it's a device that you deploy on site, right? So I talk to people, 10, 20 people every single day that have those legacy products. So basically, and in those legacy products, as you likely have experienced, if you haven't, you're some of the few. Unless you have deep pockets or a big checkbook for professional service, it's not uncommon for NAC deployments either stall or fail completely. The percentage of stalled or failed network access control deployments is astronomically high, and actually quite embarrassing for a market that's been around as long as it has. And we're here to help sort of solve that. So next slide. On-site appliances, ongoing maintenance, hardware end of life, all these factors have made NAC a frustrating endeavor. You search any major network community in Reddit, which I know is a hot spot to search, right? And you'll find no shortage of grievances around deploying, upgrading, patching on-prem network access control. So you see here, there's a verified user, manager of information security. It's a hospital and healthcare facility, pretty large organization. And I think that's a half a star if I'm looking at via trust radius, right? Stay away from ICE like you would a minefield. We're working with a bank here in the U.S. And we had a roadmap call with these guys like 2 weeks ago, and they said ICE is a quote unquote bad word in their organization. So we have I know some folks that were over at some eBay and PayPal, same thing, trying to deploy ICE. It's a never ending sort of proposition you're getting into, and it's sort of it's never fully deployed. It mostly fails, and then even if it is deployed properly, guess what? Something happens. You got to upgrade this, you got to upgrade that, the hardware, so on and so forth. So it takes a heavy toll on IT teams, and kind of talked earlier, and I don't know about the folks on this call, but IT teams are getting kind of condensed in size, right? I mean, it's a competitive market out there. People are leaving some organizations, go to other organizations for any number of reasons, and you guys are asked to do sort of, more with less from a people perspective. So, and an access control product sort of ties into that sort of pain. Next slide.
As I say, when we talk with our clients about time to value and how much time do you have to even manage what you've got, because we're generally not talking to clients who have too many helping hands around to dive in and maintain whatever tool it is. But I mean, one of the things that made Loop One put us on the map was being able to speak to the total cost of ownership for SolarWinds. What is it actual cost in time, infrastructure, man hours, resources, learning curve, upgrades, the whole thing. We've done 5,000 engagements. We know what that looks like, and we're starting to get a feel for that, with NAC, and it is a real pain point that you just can't keep a handle on it. It's the sprawl or all the points you mentioned. So yeah, again, as a service is becoming a cliche and a buzzword, but NAC as a service is something that we're getting a lot of welcome reception for so far.
Yeah, for sure. And we like the as a service product, once again, a little bit off script here is like the company, we've been around about 15 years. We had an on-premise product back in the day. The as a service product is sort of all we're going to market with. Not sort of, it is all and that part of our business is growing rapidly because it literally, like if you Google search network access control cloud, we pop at the top. We're the only one out there, right? There's some that are doing sort of radius, but full network access control solution suite. We're the only one on the market, and people are sort of getting all after that. So here kind of getting into some of the Portnox piece, right? So at Portnox, we offer a cloud native network and endpoint security essentials that enable agile, resource constrained IT teams to proactively address today's most pressing security challenges, which we previously covered. In no particular order, talking about rapid expansion of enterprise networks. You're talking about the proliferation of connected device types, BYOD, the remote work, IoT is, all we hear from most of our customers is, how do you solve for IoT? How do you solve for IoT? How do you solve for IoT? So we're solving for that. And then you have the increased sophistication of cyber attacks, right? There was a client I read. You can read about it every single day, right? There's always cyber attacks, right? And it's super sophisticated, and people are hacking networks all over the place, and it's costing companies, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, right? I talk to people all the time about like, what do you do for your access controls? Like, we don't have one. So what happens if, and like to Jordan's point, right? One breach, one ransomware attack could basically turn the lights off for organizations of any size. And obviously be extremely costly and problematic. We have hundreds of customers that are leveraging or have leveraged our award-winning access control solution, as well as our endpoint risk monitoring and remediation policies. What this does is it allows your organization to strengthen your security posture by eliminating the need for on-prem footprint, common among traditional information security systems. Portnox allows companies, no matter their size, geo-distribution, or networking architecture, to deploy, scale, extremely key, and maintain these critical security policies with unprecedented ease. The fact that it's in the cloud, we say it all the time, you set it and you forget it, right? You deploy it, you do all the policies, right? You do the heavy lifting. We partner with Jordan, his team, his organization on sort of that piece of it. Once it's set up, since it's all in the cloud, you sort of do set it and forget it as long as the policies are sort of set up, right? And then you bring new users on, they have policies, you apply the policies, and then bam, they're good, right? There's no patching, none of that stuff. Because it's all in the cloud, there's no obviously hardware to upgrade and maintain and such like that. That's all on us. So it's part of the solution.
Yeah, some of our early on training, one of the questions was, well, public cloud goes down, there's outages, published and unpublished outages that we know about. What happens in that case? And it's comforting to know that there is that a proxy, that it's you install it on a local VM. You've got local failover if the cloud, for whatever reason, if internet's down, right?
Yeah.
Then you're still up with your NAC services. So
it's a great point. I think it's a great point. What's funny is when I talk to people about that, and we go, oh well, you got this local proxy. Don't worry about it. Internet, connectivity's cut. I mean, it's like 9 out of 10 IT professionals, and we have that conversation. We tell them, hey, don't worry, we got you covered if this happens. They go, well, it doesn't matter. When the internet goes down, pretty much people go home anyway. So, but we do have you covered in case you still need to keep working. So there's that piece of it. So next slide, I think, is sort of the drum roll, the final slide. And just to kind of give you a quick visual, right? I did not build this. It's a quick visual of the architecture slide, right? Some people call it the money slide, right? How does this actually look sort of from an access perspective, right? You got devices connecting to the network, you got the corporate network, and sort of how the flow. I'll kind of run through it real quickly. To sort of piece it all together. So, and then we'll get into some questions, right? So basically, to tie a bow around the presentation, this slide it literally is just a high level architecture design on how our SaaS-based access control product works, right? So with Portnox Clear or Portnox Cloud, as we're sort of rebranding, if you will, but Portnox Clear, which is our cloud SaaS product, we deliver full device awareness, knowing when any device requests authentication to the network, no matter location or access layer. We talked about that, wired, wireless, VPN. Our cloud radius can be deployed in a matter of minutes. It's as simple as activating with a click of a button and pinpointing to your existing network hardware. From there, Clear, or Portnox Cloud, authenticates devices through a variety of methods such as MAC-based, integrations with Active Directory, PKI, and certificate based. So any sort of different ways you need to authenticate to the network, we've got you covered. This is going to be based on users' roles and or location. We can actually dynamically assign newly authenticated users to specific VLANs, helping prevent any lateral movement should threats arise. For customers that choose to implement a proprietary Agent P or Microsoft Intune integration, which I don't know if you guys, we didn't even ask the poll question, which is, do you guys, consume any Microsoft products? One of them being Intune, right? So we have a proprietary agent, which we call Agent P, but either one of those things, along with Clear, you can actually monitor the risk posture of the devices on the network. When devices fall out of compliance and they exceed whatever threshold you guys have sort of put in there as sort of like what is acceptable and unacceptable, your networking organization, right? Clear, leveraging Intune and or Agent P, can automatically quarantine or remediate the devices, right? So it helps them bring back to sort of a compliant state or an acceptable state, and then allows them back on the network. So issue with the network could be the antivirus, could be the latest version of Google you have in your browser, any number of things that Agent P and or Intune or any number of integrations we can use, MDNs, right? We'll sort of say, hey, it's authenticate. Okay, got it. They got a problem. We're looking at it. We're looking at the machine. Okay, let's put it off over here. Update your antivirus. I mean, it happens to me all the time. Obviously, we eat our own dog food. We use Portnox Clear to authenticate the network. I'm the world's worst about upgrading my machine. I'm probably an IT professional's worst nightmare. But I mean, I'll be in meetings like, hey, Sean, I see, you're presenting and I see in the upper right that your Google Chrome browser is out of compliance or you need to update it, right? So that happens. I'm not on the network until I update it. And then guess what? I get back on the network, right? So it happens to me all the time because I'm just not great at sort of keeping things up to date like I should. So last but not least, I almost repeated myself, Clear is vendor agnostic, right? So it works with dozens of firewalls, antivirus solutions, as well as most security incident and event management or SIEM tools, enabling you to unify key areas of security, right? So we're not tied to any specific vendor. It doesn't. So you can do network architecture changes, right? A new CIO comes in, a new CTO comes in and says, we're moving from this technology to that technology. Don't worry. We got you covered, vendor agnostic. I mean, the only game in town for us is access control. We do it better than anyone out there. We're the only cloud native product out there. Set it and forget it. All the sort of things I've said before. But I think it is nice to know that you can pivot your strategy from an architecture perspective, from a security stack perspective, antivirus perspective, firewall perspective, you name it. And we are vendor agnostic and we play nicely with all the different technologies out there. So Jordan, I think with that, I think that sort of wraps up we can go to the next slide. Actually, no, it wraps up sort of my part of the presentation. So I just like to say thank you very much sincerely for your time and your patience while you listen to a CRO talking to about an extremely technical sort of world that we're operating in. But let's open up for questions. Once again, preface with if it's super technical, I'm going to say join me in London in about a month, and I'll have an SE there to really get after it. And all kidding aside, Jordan and his team and my team can answer those ones that I'm not able to sort of accurately sort of answer today. And if I don't know the answer, I'll punt it to an engineer.
Awesome. No, great job, Shon. And look, just to kind of put a bow on it for loop one, you know, some of the things that we've seen early on, it really is complementary to SolarWinds. So if you're running UDT in your environment, you're setting whitelists, you know, with your user device tracker. You know, now think about a rogue device coming in and having that NAC access, send an alert to SEM or Splunk, whatever SIM you're using, and then getting the alert, checking it against your whitelist from UDT, and then, you know, all that has been prefaced by, you know, maybe you used Access Rights Manager or ARM to set the policy or help manage your Active Directory, and it integrates with Active Directory. So really, it complements in a ton of great ways, and setup couldn't be easier. I think the one question we had on one of the early demos was, you know, what configuration you have to do, and I think really all it is setting your devices up for 801.x,
Yep.
and that can be done with NCM if you have Network Configuration Manager, or no easy way to do that, you know. So, like I said,
It's a great point, Jordan. It's a great point. Like we get that question. It's one thing I didn't cover, which is like, okay, great. I understand how easy this is, right? Once it's set up, you set it, forget it, set the policies, yada, yada, yada. You know, Loop One, they have, you know, obviously services organization that can do that. We kind of partner in crime with those guys, but we do 15, 20,000 device sort of cutovers from legacy technologies in pretty short order. And you know, move the policies over, set it all up, and then so it's a big lift and shift sort of like conceptually, but it doesn't take a long time, right? You configure the network a little bit, you point it there, you deploy it, and then from there, once you build the policies and the devices are sort of bucketized, then you pull in a handful of devices. I mean, we're doing a global rollout for a big sort of travel lodge type organization. We're rolling this out across 7,000 locations globally, and it's like they're taking down 350 locations a week, just pretty easily in a matter of, you know, a couple hours a day.
Yeah, no, it's very slick, and as much as we deadpan at the beginning, it must be not, you know, non-technical resources. When I go into the office, I log into our Portnox instance because I want to learn how to use it, and I bug our sysadmin all the time to give me access to the tools, which he gives me read only, I think. But it's not hard. I mean, it really, you set policy, you can get a risk score on your devices, you can see who's there, where they are. I mean, it's pretty slick. And I've been selling SolarWinds for 6 years, and I think, you know, after less than a year of working with you guys, I've done more in Portnox Clear than I have in most SolarWinds tools, and I can say that comfortably because most of the folks on this call are from the UK, and they have to deal with Glenn, not myself. So that's my segue into reminding folks, definitely reach out to Glenn, definitely go meet Glenn and Shon and the team. Coming up on the 11th, there you can see we'll send out links to RSVP for that. Our CEO Bill Fitzpatrick will be there. You can tell him how great or poorly I did on this webinar face to face, and it's one that I wish I could come to, but unfortunately the budget allowed for the smart folks to go attend that, not dumb sales guy. So, Shon, how do they get access? How does that typically work for you guys? Here's your slide for that.
Yeah,
Easy, right?
it's pretty simple, right? Go to loop1.com/Portnox-clear, right? I mean, it's as simple as that, right? You request a demo, start a free trial, all that stuff sort of routes into you know, our partners Loop One. they'll do initial conversations, right? But like we're a co-selling model, right? The way we operate is if you engage through the portal here, Jordan and or someone in his organization will pick it up, and in a lot of cases, we'll bring a sales engineer from my team to sort of like get a little bit deeper into some of the things to help sort of set up. But I mean, it's as simple as that. We do so I call it a guided evaluation, which is sort of like you kick the tires on it, but we'll understand like what are you trying to solve for. We'll meet with you with the Loop One team periodically to make sure you're getting out of it. It doesn't take a long time. A lot of customers are doing 3, 4, 5 day evaluations, right? They don't really elongate, and then we're 7 out of 10 times we're sort of in a good spot to sort of move into sort of the next phase of it. So
yeah, that's great. And I guess exclamation point for me through all of this learning about the partnership and the product has been, I sold Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for about a year, and the true cost of SaaS isn't always cheaper than you've got to do some funny math to kind of, well, if you fire these 3 guys and you sunset all these machines, then it pays for itself. And but what's been cool about this is seeing quotes come in that are less than the renewal of some of these ICE products, right? Or the ICE product specifically. I mean, that was run as a sales play for you guys, but it's not really a sales play if you just naturally are less than the renewal. I mean, it's just letting people know, right?
Yep. No, absolutely. And we're as Jordan, we're running, an ICE campaign right now. Like it's live on our site. Like, whatever your maintenance is, we'll do half that for the first year as long as it's a multi-year contract, right? We're so confident in our ability to sort of like get you guys in a great spot from a access control perspective that we're going super aggressive to put an offer out there to sort of get your attention because we're winning those deals left and right, and we're doing that against ICE, Killer Pass, Force Scout, so on and so forth. So that's a great point, Jordan.
Looks like we did have a question come in. Can it do MAB from an RA user and integrate with Duo?
Say that again. Probably defer to Judah, but what was that again, Jordan? Sorry.
Can it do MAB from an RA user and integrate with Duo? So we've got some homework. It'd be my guess.
I don't know. I'm familiar with Duo. I know we do MAB-based authentication, but that specific sort of process is unknown to me. So if we can screenshot that question, I'll get an answer back to you within a few hours.
Yep, we will do, Shon.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any more questions popped in, so please reach out to Glenn there in the UK office. We'll get that information out to you. Maybe we should put that slide in here. Maybe we can add it when we send some information out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can make sure to include that.
Great. He's got a great team. If you get a chance to talk with Phoebe, you won't stop laughing. She's great. The whole office has so much more fun than the US. I don't know what we're doing wrong here. So, but thank you everybody for attending. Really appreciate it. Hope this was interesting for you. I hope it was compelling enough to give us a call and try it out. And thank you for giving us some time today. Shon, great job.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. And come have a pint with us over in the UK. I think it's the 11th or 12th, right? So whatever was on the previous
11th of October, correct.
Please come join us. Love to have a pint with you and talk more. And I'll have, a sales engineer there. I'll have a local account executive as well as my channel director who works closely with the Loop One team. So we'd love to see you in person and, we'll have the smart folks in tow.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Helen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shon. Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate your time.
Bye-bye.